be one-on-one. And today I'm so excited to have a Buddha bullying ally of around 7 years now with us, Isaac Pelayo, who is an amazing artist, painter, amongst a million other things. I mean, acting, tattooing. He has a tattoo gun outside. I was like, maybe at the end of this we'll do a little something. But I'm just so happy to have you here today and to chat with you. Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Also, Dimitri and I were just talking about that you created our logo for Desert's Got Talent, right? For our event?
Yeah, a while back.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
We still use it though, and it was great.
That's so funny. I completely
Fun
forgot
fact.
about that. I totally forgot about that. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it is that resonates with you when it comes to Buddha bullying. I know that you've supported for a minute now, and have you been bullied? Do you want to share some of your experiences and just what it is about the organization that speaks to you?
Well, when I met Dimitri, he explained a little bit about the organization, and what I love most about it is that it creates an opportunity for people to pay attention to what's going on, and it gives awareness to bullying and non-equality that we have today in society. So I support that. I support equality. I support against bullying, because I was kind of bullied as a kid as well. I was teased a lot. More so, I resonate more so because my little brother, he's 14, and he's a little more, on the heavier side, and was constantly bullied as a kid. I mean, even still so today. So, I'm a big advocate for, promoting not bullying, because,
Kindness.
it's sad. It sucks when, you're a kid and you're teased for something that, is just you. You know what I mean? And then that caters to like mental health and all that stuff, and then people grow up pretty depressed. And I know I was pretty depressed as a kid for many reasons. A lot of the things that I was bullied from, like people would often make fun of me because of the things that I was going through at home, and my physical appearance. A lot of people, there was a multitude of things that people would tease me for. I never really understood it, but it allowed me to be me even more so.
Right.
I never really retracted from being me. It pushed me to step out of the box even more. And in today's age with cyberbullying, it's crazy how kids can become really depressed and close themselves in and kind of hide themselves from the world, and they put on this veil that keeps them hidden from what they think is the world, and they don't want to show themselves, or they don't want to be themselves. So yeah, I'm all for what Dimitri's doing, and I support it 100%.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. I'm really happy you brought up mental health, because that's something that we've been trying to be more vocal about within our organization. And what I'm loving that I'm seeing is that a lot of people are doing this. People who have big platforms are stepping forward and talking forward and coming out and speaking about their anxiety, their depression, suicidal thoughts they've had in the past. And it really does tie in a lot with bullying, because when you're being bullied, you're made to feel, I use this word all the time, I hate to sound like a broken record, but alienated and isolated, and a lot of things can manifest in when you feel alone. Period. We're not all stuck at home anymore, but when people were, cyberbullying was on the rise, because people were just stuck behind their phones and computers, and mental health was on the rise. The self-bully as well, which I feel like feeds off the bullying from others. I feel like that's when the mental health, really becomes an issue with depression and anxiety. So I'm really happy that you brought that up, because a lot of people like to shrug off bullying. I've noticed, they'll come to me and be like, well, it makes you tougher and this and that. And I'm like, I understand that, but everyone is different, first of all. And words do really hurt. And it's not necessarily just that one situation, but you don't realize what the domino effect is, or what someone's dealing with at home. You don't know what their home life is. So they're coming to school or whatever it may be. You're bullying this person, and then they're going home, and they're in, you don't know what their life is like behind closed doors or at their home. So, and then there's cyberbullying. So it becomes this revolving circle, and it can become very depressing and very, people can absolutely form suicidal thoughts from it. So.
Well, that turns into self-bullying.
Yeah.
People tend to, I think that's probably the worst level of it, when you start bullying yourself and you start beating yourself down for things that are false, perspectives and false claims. I mean, once you reach the point where you start, beating yourself up, what's happening is you're becoming like a black hole and you're eating yourself up, and that's like the worst. And I think that what contributes to that the most is social media, because oftentimes people are comparing themselves to other people's lives, and they're being bullied for things that they can't control or don't have, like trying to keep up with
highlight reels.
Yeah, or just trying to keep up with, the time, and it's like I grew up, pretty, low class as far as financially goes. I grew up in on welfare and stuff like that. So I didn't have the things that the other kids on the block had, and oftentimes, I was made fun of for having Payless shoes when people had more brand name stuff. So it's things like that is another thing that takes place quite often. And when you're a kid and you grow up and you see the things that people have and obtain, it's just for me, it made me more hungry to just
totally
build on myself.
It's all about mindset.
Yeah, but not everybody is the same, and not everybody reciprocates the that kind of energy the same. A lot of people, that energy becomes very overwhelming, and it's like more weight, what I mean? So some people just handle it differently. Like you said, people get suicidal. My grandmother committed suicide, so I know that. Right. So and she was often teased and made fun of. I mean, again, that's part of mental health.
Right.
When you have depression, it's super real.
Absolutely.
It's not a thing that people should take lightly or look at something that's a casual thing. Because
it's an actual disease. I know people who don't deal with depression and anxiety, a lot of times their outlook on it can be, well, just come on, just put some pep in your step, or you've got this, or come on, mindset. And I do understand that, and it is more than just mindset, because it's an actual, sometimes it's just a chemical imbalance, and the most important thing is to speak out, to get help, to go to the proper people, to not feel so alone. I do believe that the mind is a really powerful tool, but sometimes it's a really hard thing to control, and we need each other. So the worst thing that you can do in those situations is continuously bash someone. People need to be lifted up so that they're in a place where they're no longer self-bullying, and they're fueling this with their passions. I'm sure when you were getting bullied, did you were you using at that point in time art as an outlet, or painting as an outlet?
Yeah, no, for sure. Painting, I didn't start painting until later on in life, but drawing was the thing that I was doing as a kid. And that was really the only thing that spoke to me. That was the only thing I could run to. I grew up not having a lot of friends, and the friends that I did have probably weren't the best influences on me.
Right.
I was a pretty solitary kid. I didn't mind hanging out in the corner of the room with a sketch pad and just in my own world. So that was me growing up, and especially in elementary. I sure would love to have played recess with the kids and socialize and have friends, but you realize quickly that you're not like a lot of other people.
Right.
So I didn't mind being alone, and art allowed me to express myself, and it allowed me to really learn a lot about myself and mold myself. I realized that was a driving force in my hunger for achievement, success, and betterment for myself.
Right.
Spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. So and that goes for anything. Anybody has that outlet. They just need to find it. A lot of people don't know how to navigate what to do with it. You give a person lemons, and then they don't know what to do. They have this thing, and they don't know how to take it from point A to point B. Whereas it spoke to me too quickly, so I just ran with it like a baton. I immediately knew what to do with it, and I knew what I wanted to do with it first and foremost. So, on the flip side of being teased and stuff, I always said, all right, one day you're teasing me for something that you're gonna praise me for later. And it's funny because that's kind of been the case. A lot of people who didn't really believe in my art, or a lot of people that didn't believe that I can sustain myself off of this. You know, I had teachers that even, you know, had doubts in me.
Same.
Like, I've had teachers in front of my face, in front of an entire classroom, tell me that I'm going to need a fallback, and that, you know, drawing is you know, it's my head was in the clouds and I was a dreamer. But, you know, fast forward to some years later, and I think I'm doing pretty decent enough. I mean,
Totally.
I know better than most, but yeah, you know, I think people just have a hard time finding that thing that drives them and navigating it, and keeping themselves focused and moving forward. People have different ways of finding it, or utilizing something in their life to, you know, disregard and kind of maneuver those situations in life, because there's some people that just, they can't find it, and like a candle, their light goes out.
Right.
And, you know, it sucks, but, you know, it definitely happens.
You have to figure out what it is that fuels you, and it doesn't have to be, I know we talk a lot about the arts because we have so many incredible allies and ambassadors that are artists, and whether that be artists with paint and all that, or actors, singers, dancers, but it could be anything. If you like sewing, if you like taking walks around a park, I mean, whatever it is. I was reading a quote the other day, and it said, wherever you feel most alive, go there. And I know that for people who do suffer from depression and anxiety, I know that it can feel impossible to get out of bed and to put that one foot in front of the next, but you've got this, and you just got to keep going and go in the direction of whatever it is that fuels you. For me, it was always the arts as well, but acting and singing and dancing, and, you know, the more people tried, I was very much like you, the more people were like, you'll never make it, I was like, I want to make it a million times more, so just keep trying. Like, it made me want to prove myself, and I guess it's a little bit more just my personality, but having a true passion really does help get you through so many of the challenges in your life.
Yeah.
So I'm so with you on that. And I wanted to say something else going back to when you were talking about your shoes. Because that just makes me so frustrated. You are not your situation. And I think that when we're young, we don't get it. We don't get that. I think as we get older, we don't treat people, we wouldn't probably make fun of somebody as frequently for their shoes as we would as kids. But to the kids out there that are watching, because we do have a young audience, you're not your situation. And it doesn't matter what shoe you wear or what house you live in. I know some people that live in the most beautiful houses and have the best shoes ever who are miserable. So you're not your situation, and everything does lie within. You were mentioning the self-bully. And instead, be a self-cheerleader, you know? You can lift your own self up and just continue on. You never succumb to anyone else's nonsense. Always stick to what you love, and it doesn't matter if it's something strange, you know, whatever it is that fuels you and excites you, you know, to me, we've talked to so many people, and that's been one of the main tactics that have pulled them out of depression or helped them fight against bullying that they were experiencing were their hobbies. And, you know, if they were getting bullied in school, then it's, you know, maybe it's after school getting to go play soccer and just getting your mind off of it. I played soccer for 10 years. It was absolutely therapeutic for me.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I did. It's just having passions and hobbies, and just, we got one life to live, so make it fun and do what you enjoy, and never listen to anyone. I've known a lot of people that have gotten made fun of for silly things like shoes or jeans, and those are just such materialistic, silly things to me that just mean absolutely nothing. So it's important for kids, I think, to hear that, and teens to hear that. And I mean, look how you're sitting here right now. You look great to me. You got the Nikes, you got the diamonds. I mean, you know, you can, if you dream it and believe it, you can succeed and achieve whatever it is that you want in life. I really do believe that. So
yeah, you know,
I think you're a great representation of that. I see Gucci on the glasses.
No, it's funny. It's not even like materialistic things. It's not even. It's very I don't know, trivial. You know, it's one of those things that when you get older and you work hard, it just takes hard work.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid, being teased and bullied for not having certain things, or not, you know, being in a certain group of people, or, you know, I also was teased for being like super skinny. So, you know what I mean? Like, I just really didn't fit in a lot of places. And I grew up kind of poor in like a suburban area, so I couldn't really keep up with those kids. And I also grew up in a very like I don't want to say toxic household, but there's a lot of toxicity in my household because of internal things that my family was going through.
Right.
Things that they had to deal with themselves. So that energy would get distributed throughout the house. So, I was also on the spotlight because of that, and oftentimes, made fun of and talked about because of that. So, all of those things they were ingredients for me to work harder and better myself and just be the best me that I can be. Disregarding everything that the appearances, at the end of the day, I breathe, I sleep, I eat, the same as everybody else.
Exactly.
And it's crazy because I think what pushes me the most is like my little brother and my siblings. I'm the oldest, so I kind of I took on the mentor and the what's the term I'm looking for, role model position really serious. My little brother was born when I was like I think 11 and a half. So really early on I felt that I have a responsibility to present myself and keep myself in a certain way, because I know that my little brother and future siblings that I have will be watching. I would never want them to see me depressed or allow other people dictate how I'm going to feel or go about my day. And my little brother, he's one of those kids that he wants so much to be accepted and be a part of those crowds, and he wants to be in the he wants to be a part of what's going on, and he wants to be validated. And I know a lot of kids like that. At one point I was like that, but I realized to a point that I didn't need to be a part of anything or have anything or look like anyone to be validated, because that was me. And then realizing that I was the only me, that there's a lot of...
That's the coolest thing ever, that there is only one of us.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in that.
That's so cool when you look at it from that perspective. And I think a lot of people, when they're getting bullied, they don't. They think that because they're made to feel a certain way. But if you change that around and just go, no, these are the things that make me me. These are the things that will make me grow if they're things that I can change. Or you know what I mean? So I think there is so much power and there is only one me. And if we look at it as that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and especially even like I grew up around a lot of women. And a lot of women who were self-conscious about their physical appearances, how they looked. My mom is even, one of those persons who have felt self-conscious, and I never understood that. I never understood the need to have to look like somebody else or feel like you look like these people. I like the idea that I'm me and I look like me and I don't look like anybody else. I mean, there's some people that claim that I look like people, but I guess, But
we all have some doppelgangers, I'm sure, out there.
Yeah. I get a few, too many actually. It's funny, no one ever comes up in the street and they're like, Isaiah, they'll always think I'm somebody else. And I'm like, dude, just the other day, yesterday, someone came up to me and they thought it was somebody else. I'm like, dude. Yeah, but
Not Isaac. One and only, baby.
Yeah.
One of me.
I'm like, sure, yeah, that's me. I'm like, if it gets me a free drink, I'll take it. But I think people have their battles and their trials and tribulations.
We all do.
Need to just gotta navigate it. Someone told me something once that really resonated with me years ago. They said that people go through levels of things that they can handle. When you're looking out the window and you see what other people are going through, and you may think, oh, I have it so much harder. That's not always the case. Everyone's going through something. I mean, I don't know a person that doesn't have something that they're going through. They know how to navigate it. They know how to take it and distribute it and move forward. So people just kind of have to accept that life is life, and you're going to deal with things. You're going to deal with nasty people and nasty things to be said. But once you realize that, you're the only person that dictates what happens in the future, there's a lot of power in that, and there's a lot of weight to shed, and all of that stuff is weight.
Absolutely.
Weight. It's the matter of working out. A lot of people, it's kind of hard because a lot of people have a very I don't want to say lazy mentality, but a lazy mentality because they're a product of their environment. They watch a lot of people who are lazy and they make excuses to fix something. And if there's an issue that you also agree with people, then work on it, fix it. You're really the only person responsible for that, but don't let that be
pull you down.
a weight on you that's gonna suffocate you. Allow it to be something that's gonna uplift you and float you. It's kind of like what we see today in society with discrimination, racial discrimination. Black people, they turned years of horrible history into an insane movement. You know what I mean? And not even the black community, but the Armenian community. What's happening right now with the Palestine and Israel. I mean, there's communities that, but that's a whole different can of worms, and it's a whole different topic. But it takes strong-minded people to pull themselves out and rearrange what's happening. I think it's just the more people that we have to tell people like this is normal and it's normal to go through things.
Yeah.
It's not normal for people to bully or discriminate or put someone down. Like mental health is those things happen.
Yeah.
Happen.
Unfortunately, it is normal, and that's the sad part. It's not right, but the sad thing is that's what I think. That's the main thing with Buddha bullying, and this is something I've been saying a lot after a conversation with a dear friend of mine in Dimitri in Palm Springs. We're not going out there and saying that we're going to absolutely end bullying and hate, because unfortunately, as human beings, it's kind of ingrained in us. People go against each other. It's been happening since the beginning of time. It's awful. Wish it wasn't like that, but that is the world that we live in, and that is human beings. But what we can, not all of us, but what we can do is start to teach the proper tools and really lift each other up and form a community, a safe space that people can come if they need to talk. And that's the most important thing, is getting things out of your body, because when we let that sit in there and bottle up, that's when the negativity manifests into depression and anxiety. And I think people are so scared to speak on these subjects because it does feel alienating and scary and weak, but it's not. To me, like, the strongest people I know have gone through the most. Mental health, physical health, whatever it may be. They came from nothing. They worked their way through that. They worked through that and made something of themselves. And I think another thing to be said is when you taking those challenges, kind of like you did, and taking the bullying and and really allowing it to enrich whatever it is that you're trying to do. I think that the best, honestly, actors and artists and people that I've met, once again, it doesn't have to be in the arts, that's kind of my world, but people that I've met have been through some shit. Like, it is what it is, and they're the most colorful people because of it. And I think it's piggybacking off of that, when we are having just crappy moments in life, or being bullied, or feel just super depressed or alienated, and just, I don't know, like, gosh, I'm the only person in the world that must feel like this right now, which is impossible. I'm sure 2 people down, someone feels that way. It's important to think, like, what is the lesson right now? There's got to be a lesson in this, and that's what I'm learning as of recently. It's just, anytime I'm dealing with a hardship or a challenge, what's the reason here? Because there's always a reason, and there's always a way to. You can always find a reason, in my opinion, and I feel like that's something that you kind of did. And I also want to say, because you were talking about your siblings, I think what that goes to show, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but I think when you are surrounded by people that you really love and good people, you want to do good. You have a purpose. And I think, like, your tribe just says so much, and just ensuring that we have those relationships. I mean, there's a million different scenarios of those relationships, but for you really wanted to be this role model, and you really wanted to embody, like, kindness and love and being a good person, because you loved your siblings so much and you wanted to be this role model for them. And what that shows me is, when we surround ourselves with people that are just good people that we love, we want to do better, or we want to help them, or you're just doing good when you're surrounded by good. And I think that a lot of times people kind of wind up on the wrong path because they're just hanging around the wrong crowd, and your tribe attracts your vibe attracts your tribe. I think one of those are the saying, and I really do believe in that. If I look back in my life, when I was surrounded by people who were super just uplifting and accepting and people I could talk to and share my problems with, whatever that may be, that's when I would thrive the most, you know? So I'm happy that you brought that up.
Yeah, being around good people has a big effect. You know, a lot of people, they surround themselves around negative people. They surround themselves around people who aren't the kindest, and they need to be a part of kind.
It's a frequency thing.
Yeah,
it's like a real thing. It's the energy, like that shit's real.
Yeah, no, it 100%. And you know, I mean, I think you know, I put the blame on parents, because parents aren't doing the job that they need to be doing by helping their kids navigate. You know, there's a lot of parents that are very old school and traditional, and you know, we're in a time where we're in a really interesting time. We're battling 3 generations right now. We're battling a very, very traditional generation with the older crowd, and then the mid generation where they were kind of affected by the older crowd, so they're kind of damaged and they don't know how to navigate things themselves. So, and then we have the young generation who are attached to the internet, social media, and the internet is becoming the parent, and the parents, you know, aren't really knowing how to navigate, and it's because their parents, you know, are so traditional on old beliefs and stuff, and that tears down into things like sexual equality, you know, like rights,
rights,
all of that, like you know, just the whole race thing,
racism,
everything in the bracket of what we're dealing with in society today stems from old beliefs and old traditions, and just that stuff is all false, you know, ideals and stuff that need to get broken down. But it's going to take a while to get past that, you know, because the internet is a really nasty place too. I mean, social media, you have a lot of those nasty people on social media, and they're contributing to the ingredients of what these kids are paying attention to. You know, they feed off that stuff. It's crazy how kids are quicker to feed off the negativity than they are the positivity, because, you know, misery loves company. It'll hold on to you like tar. It just does. And
we're just talking about misery needs company.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you build muscle because you lift heavy.
Right.
The heavier the weight, the stronger you get.
Right.
So people don't understand that this is just a lot of weight that people need to work out with, and it's just going to make them stronger.
And you become the strongest in the darkest moments. You
right.
really do. You don't realize at the moment, because you're like, how am I going to get through another day? Maybe that's how you think.
No.
So this is one of my favorite questions. If you could go back to any younger version of yourself, what would you go and say to a younger Isaac?
I would probably say to see myself as a baby. Just to be conceited for a moment and hold myself like baby Jesus, and I can look at myself in the eyes and say, "Kid, you're gonna be great. You know, you're gonna do some dope stuff." But in seriousness, it's a really good question, because there was a lot of moments. I just did an interview the other day, and we were talking about the moments that I had in life that were kind of like a pivotal moment, and where I had like an epiphany about myself, about my career. And I would love to go back to every one of those moments and see how I overcame that obstacle and then went on to the next obstacle. Because there wasn't just a moment that was like, okay, if I go back to this specific time, because I'm still going through stuff. You know, I go through stuff on a daily basis. You know, I have the responsibility of helping my family, sustaining myself. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work. I have to constantly build. I have a bunch of financial responsibilities. You know, there's just a lot of stuff that comes with being an entrepreneur, being
an adult,
an artist, being an adult. First and
adulting
foremost.
is hard.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, the first time I had to pay rent, I was like, dude,
this is so sad, all that money.
I didn't sign up for this shit. Yeah, I was like, nah, this is like majority of my paycheck. I'm keeping this. I told my landlord one time, like, I'm holding on to this one, homie. Like, I'll get you the next time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I need this month of pay. But you know, yeah, I don't know. I maybe when I was like, maybe like 13, 14, that's really, that was a moment where I was going through a lot of personal issues. My grandmother had just passed away. I was just a month or two shy of my 14th birthday. Was really lost, confused about what I was going to do. You know, she was kind of like my guardian angel. That was like a person that I ran to when things were like completely at its worst. And that was the person that I ran to when things were at its best. And this is funny. I'll give you a little story because I think it's pretty good, and I think people can pull some inspiration from it. So, when I was little, you know, I grew up with my grandmother, pretty depressed, and depressed in a way that was pretty hard to see and witness, because you don't realize that someone can eat themselves alive that much. You know, they're dealing with a lot of internal things and years. You know, by the time my grandma passed away, I think she was about 50. So, you a ton of years of just things having gone through.
Right.
And I didn't understand that as a kid. You know, I grew up with my mom, my mom's two younger brothers, my grandmother, and my great grandmother. That was my household that I grew up in. You know, my dad lived in LA, and I grew up in Riverside as a kid. So I, you know, was around mostly women, and the women in my family they have a lot of things that they needed to deal with, and you know, there's a bunch of generations to deal with. And I used to tell my grandmother that, you know, I'd grow up and become a really successful artist, and I'd move her out, or if I didn't buy her a house, she would live with me. You know, and she always believed in my art. Like, that was the person that, like, you know, my mom, my dad, they believe in my art. You know, my dad's an artist as well. They've always pushed me to do my art, but I would, without hesitation, give the ball to my grandmother as the person who believed in my art the most. Like, she was involved in the very first art show that I was in when I was 10. She was involved in anything that I did as a kid that had to do with art. She fed that fire a lot. And so I used to tell her, you know, I'd move you out one day. And it's funny because when she passed away, I was completely like taken just by the fact that I couldn't keep that promise. That's at least what I thought at the time. Fast forward to some years later, last year actually, I bought my first house.
Wow, and, congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
And my grandmother's ashes are in my art studio.
Wow.
So I kind of kept my promise in a way, because she lives with me.
She does.
Yeah. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, and I can feel her energy every time I'm painting. So I can still feel that like bratty ass energy too as my grandmother. But yeah, but you know, that's part of those things that people need to hold on to and use as a driving force and fuel, because, you know, when you're a kid and you don't have a lot of friends and you have people not in your corner, and you see the rest of the world and you feel like the world is against you, it gets hard. But, you know, you find those gems.
I love that.
In your, you know, you're kind of like gold mining. You pick up a pile of dirt and you sift it for, you know, what gems you have inside. Right. And there are gems. You just have to recognize coal for a diamond. You just got to apply pressure.
I love that. And there's for everybody. Everybody's got gems in inside that dirt, baby. Just keep digging. I promise they're there.
The biggest gem is yourself.
Exactly.
That's what people...
There you go. You don't even really have to dig. You just got to...
It's nice to have some extra gems there.
It's always...
Let's
collect the gems. Let's collect the gems. I love that. I know that people will absolutely pull inspiration from that story and from our entire talk. I mean, thank you so much for coming and showing your heart. And
thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And just being very vulnerable and open, and I really appreciate it. Dimitri's in the corner telling us to do the Buddha bullying. So it's time to do the Boo to bullying, baby.